Greetings and salutations, I'm Zoot, your lovable game developer.
And I'm Kai, your lovable pixel artist.
Yes. And we recently participated in what's known as the Godot Wild Jam. And basically what a game jam is when you have a set amount of time to create, develop, and publish a video game. There was a specific theme in this case. It was revolution and a few wild cards. Do you want to explain what those were?
Okay, so the wild cards we had were procedural generation. Some part of the game had to be randomized in some form. What's it? Who Are You, where you had NPCs you could interact with, and in another person's shoes.
Yep.
Where you had multiple protagonists.
Okay, and you can see up here that Kai has already pretty much completed the basis for Sloom, probably the favorite character. And up here, she's working on the first concepts of Seraphina. We ended up not using this design.
Yeah, you see me working on the second design here with the hand on the hip. The first design we used later for an NPC.
Yeah, we actually did end up using it for an NPC. But yeah, at first you'll see here what she's working on is like some of the top-down Seraphina concepts, because we were originally going to make it a top-down game, kind of like Legend of Zelda, the original NES version style dungeon crawler. But then we ultimately end up deciding, you know what, we aren't really as experienced with that as we are for platformers. I mean, we're not really all experienced with platformers either, but we at least started and have done it before. So we decided to scrap that idea, and we ended up going with a platformer instead. You can see me down there. I was actually importing the first tile set, which was, I was adding collisions. That's why all those yellow shapes were there. And it looks like you're working on a walk animation for Seraphina.
Yep. This is where Seraphina's personality began to develop, because so sassy.
So sassy. I'm really happy with the way all the personalities of the characters really shined throughout the game. Let's see. And I think we've already switched over to platformer at this point.
Yeah, we did that when you before you did the tile set.
Right. I think I'm just waiting for you at this point. Oh, there I go. And code. You will see it, Kai's screen flash between like a white background and it like in the corner there. And like the full thing of A Sprite. That's me switching between both Discord and the actual call with her. So it happens sometimes I forget to actually go back to her screen. I apologize for that. Or you'll see the gray overlay on that. It's because I still have the download picture thing that grays out the screen on Discord. So I apologize for that, but...
Here.
I'm adding collisions for all the characters.
Yeah.
The original how high Oop used to be able to go, and then you can see me messing around with the flight. Originally, Oop could actually fly indefinitely. You could just keep flying, but eventually, for balance purposes, we ended up going with just a triple jump for the sake of making Seraphina's bow arc more relevant, because, I mean, why do you need a bow arc if you can just fly up and shoot it anyway? So, for the really out of reach stuff, that's when you would use the bow. Oh, here comes the web of animation tree stuff. I did eventually end up simplifying this. You can see I'm kind of switching back and forth, playing around with it. Even the final result of the animation tree on this one, I ended up scrapping the new project for Neek because I realized it was a lot more simple than I was making it seem. I don't know why I went half screen there. I think I was looking at a video tutorial that just wasn't showing up on screen.
Probably.
We've got several people in chat that supported us all throughout the week. Thank you so much to Sig and Dave especially. Both of them, their support was invaluable.
Well, there I go working on the death animation.
Oh yeah, all of the death animations were just incredibly heartbreaking.
I did my job.
Yes, I was importing the different layers that the sprites would interact with. Oh, and here's the rat that we ended up not using. This is actually a carryover from the Neat game. Did you want to explain why we ended up not using that?
So, in a game where you're playing as monsters, it didn't make much sense to me to have a monster as an enemy. So, the rat was going to turn into an NPC at some point, but we ended up not using him.
Yep.
I did some other NPC-ish characters for that. I'm working on Oomp's flight now.
And I'm working on the basic NPC, the enemy script, going back and forth on the platforms.
Yep.
Using up raycasting, looking at documentation, wondering why the hell it's not working. And there I go. If it was a little slower, you would see it moonwalking right now. But instead, it's going so fast, you see 4 of them. Working on Oops.
I think this is the skid animation for...
Yep. Yeah, you can see the gust of air.
Yep.
And then you started playing around with the eyes. Oh, here's the death animation.
Yep. Goes up in fire.
Oh man, that looks so cool being time-lapsed. It's so sad. We ended up adding a pathetic little squeak while the death animation played and the burning effect, and it's just heartbreaking. Whenever one of the characters dies, you just feel it.
Going back to play with Flume. Oh, we had to call Evan.
Oh, yep, phone a friend. I don't remember why I called him the first time. Oh, I think it might have been with the NPC stuff that I was dealing with.
The Wiggle!
Yep.
Flume was just so fun to animate.
I mean, and he's just so fun to play as, too.
I tried to make the animations very fluid and gelatinous in a way, because slime.
Right.
Oh.
I think this is the start of the next day.
Probably.
That's why I look over and all I see is Sig cursing. I don't know why.
More animations for Oomp. I think this was the running, quote unquote, because Oomp never lands, so
Yep.
saved me a little bit of animation.
It saved me a few states on the animation tree as well. You can see, I think I started reworking the animation trees again. I learned a lot about the different states and how to actually interact with them, so luckily Neek, for the game that we're working on now, looks so much better than this web of convoluted mess that you're seeing in the bottom.
And this is also where I decided to make Sloom translucent, so...
Yeah, which was such a good idea. The way the way they contrast the octopus Sloom.
Yep, the landing animation.
Yeah, but the way they contrast with the background is just so satisfying. It's just so good. That bone.
The bone!
Such sentimental value.
Right. It was a gift. So the way I worked on this is the bone is technically on a back layer because the bone isn't translucent like the rest of Sloom is, so I wanted to have it look like it was inside the slime. So while I'm moving the layers around to do the animation, the bone doesn't move unless I move that layer. So it led to some interesting thoughts about physics and how things moved.
And the death animation for Sloom.
Oh yeah, this was a fun one. I got to imagine how slime popped.
Because that's exactly what you did. It kind of inflates for a little bit and then just pops.
Yep.
And the audio track that I ended up finding for it, I think fit perfectly with it. Let's see, some more animation stuff. And now you're working on the bite animation that we actually ended up not using.
Yeah, this is when we were talking about why would a rat be the enemy, so we went with a knight instead.
Yep. And then I think I'm just waiting for you to finish the first, the walk animation for the knight.
Yeah.
Working on more platforms.
Look at that rat go.
Yeah, I've started a new script here.
I think you were preparing to have the knight in the game.
Pretty sure. I think that's exactly what that was. I was copy and pasting some stuff over from the rat, finagling it.
Attack animation.
I split the screen. I was probably watching a video. Am I messing with... Oh, I think I'm messing with the grid snapper now. I'm messing with the camera, the nightmare of the camera. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. You'll see in the top right corner.
Yeah, the grid snapper gave us some issue.
Absolutely. Basically, I wanted a camera that was a lot like The Legend of Zelda, where basically you go to the right of the screen and it goes to a new scene at the bottom of the screen and so on and so forth, instead of it just traveling with you like a traditional platformer. However, that created a lot of obstacles because you're basically creating a virtual grid that the camera snaps to. And it was just, I was having some alignment issues, I was having offsetting issues, it was just a complete mess. I think that I found a new way to do it, if I do try to do it in the future, but I think for Neek we're just going to have the camera following, just for sake of ease. And also the way that we had this game is that it wasn't like you finish a scene and then you transition to another scene like through a portal or something. It was all one level.
Yeah,
so
it was kind of like a Metroidvania game in that sense, where it was one giant map.
Oh, called Evan again. This is when we're trying to really figure out what's going on with the grid snapper.
Yeah, I'm doing attack animations.
We're trying out different equations at the bottom, seeing if we can offset it to work. Eventually, I think we went with a good enough mantra until I figured it out later.
Oh, transition animation.
Ah, yeah, the transitions. Those were just so cool. What made you think of that, by the way? Like, what was your thought process there?
Magic swirly in, magic swirly out.
Magic swirly in, magic swirly out. And I mean, what's appropriate about that is they're all kind of magic-based sort of creatures, too. I mean, you've got, a skeleton, which is undead, so was likely either resurrected by a necromancer or some sort of an undead curse or something to that effect. And then you've got Sloom, which is just like a magical blob of slime. And then, Oop is an imp, so kind of a devil sort of demon thing, so.
Yep.
Oh, you can see me looking at a video of the Grid Snapper script that I got, because I was going for that Legend of Zelda feel.
Yeah, I think I was taking a break from animations to try to help find resources and whatnot.
Yeah.
Figure out what the hell is going on with it. I don't code. I can't code to save my life. I
gotta say, shout out to GD Quest and Gabe and Deffer and a few other Heartbeats. They really helped me through this jam. And of course to Evan. I'll say it many times throughout this video, but Evan saved my ass several times throughout this jam. Okay, looks like I called it good enough here.
Yeah, you're setting up screen-wide sections
Yeah.
of a platform to test on and whatnot.
Yeah, still looking at a couple of things. I think this might have been when you went to bed, because I stayed up a little later that night, if I recall.
You stayed up later most nights. I think this is the next day.
Yeah, I think this is the next day. There we go.
Yeah, I'm doing the last animation where it goes from oop to sloom.
Oop to sloop.
Fire.
Fire was a prevalent theme for Oop.
It works.
It does. I just love the way you did that, though. Just, it looks great.
Decided to save myself some time and use the second half of the landing animation because I just love the way Sloom looks as a little octopus.
Right. Oh, it looks like I started messing with the dialogue script.
Yep. Look at that night cool.
Yeah. I think this is where I implement the transition, I think. Yep, I'm actually putting them into the game now. And switching between them. Yep, looks like everything worked. And that was one thing that I thought was going to be a lot more of a hassle than it was. Transitioning between the two characters, but it was actually really easy. All I had to do was have it play the animation, and then at the end of the animation, summon the other character, and then delete the current one. So it was actually pretty easy. What that also had a side effect on was Sloom was designed to take 2 hits. So basically switching between would actually reset those 2 hits.
Attack animation.
Yep, the attack animation, which was also just fun because, like, Sloom extends outwards with the attack, and then the piece of slime with the bone on it just kind of falls back into Sloom.
Like I said, Sloom was fun to animate.
Yep. And now I'm having you work on on basically the dialogue animation.
Yeah, I think this is when I went to go take a nap because I put the tea time tales flash up.
Yep.
I had actually been working on that screen before Zook woke up in the mornings, because for some reason I was waking up at 6 o'clock in the frickin' morning. I didn't want to.
Not by choice. Yeah, we had quite a few people hop in that we didn't even know hop into our stream too and just kind of chat with us. It was really nice.
Oh, we're adjusting the hitboxes so they can all fit in the same spaces.
Yep. Yeah, that's because, like, Oop was doing something weird when they hit the ground. It would transition down to the lower screen, so I had to reduce the hitbox to make sure that it didn't do that. What's interesting about it is Sloom actually fits underneath one tile, whereas all the other characters have to have two tiles of clearance.
I'm adjusting the attack animation because you're saying that it needs to extend out more.
Yep. That's right, yeah. And I did that because the knight was just killing Sloom way too easily in melee. I mean, and it's still tight, but it's a reasonable amount of tightness.
Right.
Oh.
Living Serafina.
Yep, you're working on what she looked like beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the way you did that. You just, like, put skin on it. I actually saw an animator in ZBrush, and whenever she makes a character, she always starts with the skull, and then puts muscle and skin and stuff over it.
That's a logical way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
Oh, more attack animations.
More attack animations. God, the animation tree's starting to look like a submarine.
You'll see on my screen when I pause it on one particular scene for this long, I've probably gone and taken a nap because, again, I was waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning against my will.
Right, against my will. Working on the knight's animation. What was funny is, at first, the knight wouldn't stop attacking after it, like, struck one of the layers. So there were times where it was just going back and forth, just constantly attacking.
Attacking nothing!
No one can dispute their freaking endurance. And here we are. We took a break to go get groceries, so I'll cut back to when we come back. Okay, we're back. What are you working on? Oh, you're working on the portraits now. Okay.
Yeah. It's wanted portraits for the talkie scenes, so I got to figure out how to do those. Something that made this a particular challenge is I didn't have my tablet working through this.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, the pen nib. I don't know where it went. We had to order more. So everything I did through this jam had to be done with the mouse.
Yeah, everything you're seeing is done with mouse and nothing but a mouse. That is just terrifying. Which we have ordered more pen nibs for her tablet, so the next jam or the next game, we won't have that issue, hopefully. Have you tested those out, by the way?
I haven't tested them in Sprite.
You should probably test them out just to be safe at some point.
I tested them in an actual drawing program, and it's picking up the pressure good, so...
Okay, looks like I'm setting up the... Basically making it so after you die, it turns off your hitboxes. So you don't just keep dying over and over again. And you're working on the hurt animation for Sloom.
Yeah, because Sloom is the only one who can take 2 hits.
Yep. And then you decided to go back to the death animations and have a single frame of them flashing a bright color to signify that they're getting hurt.
Right, so you're not just sitting there going, how did I die?
Right.
It'll show that you actually took damage.
Yep. So there's not only the audio cue of the death animation, but that visual little, oh, something happened that shouldn't have happened.
Right. I'm working on tile sets now.
Yeah, the forest. The forest came out so good. I think that was the tile set you spent the most time on.
Yeah, before I realized I really can't spend this much time on every single tile set.
But we also explained that a little bit. Did you want to go into your reasoning behind the forest transition all the way to the kind of village?
So you'll probably hopefully you might notice as you're going through the game, or as you see me progress through doing the tile sets. The dungeon is very brightly colored, which people don't usually see in dungeons. The forest is very bright and vibrant, but the further you get from that point, the more diluted the colors get, until when you get into the town proper, the sky is like gray, and there's next to no color in the background. That was done on purpose, because you are playing as monsters who are used to these more natural settings. So anything that's human is kind of weird to them. It's not welcoming.
So it's basically like a change of perspective, because, like, when you're usually playing like an adventure game, you're the heroes from the city, defeating the monsters, going to the dungeons. So the villages, the kingdoms, those are all very brightly colored, very happy. But then you go into the wilderness where you can possibly get attacked and all that stuff.
And it's dark.
It's all dark. Yeah, it sets a different mood. But you're from the perspective of the monsters. So Kai actually decided to flip that and made the dungeon more welcoming than the actual town.
Yep.
Which I thought was absolutely brilliant.
I think I'm gonna work on grasslands here. Nope. Back to the attack animation because you wanted impact animations.
Yep. I'm glad we went with it too. It looks so good.
I think this is also when you decided you wanted to split the torso off.
You can see up at the top right, the fireballs were not disappearing, so I had to actually make them disappear when they hit the walls. And what would you say?
Was working on attack animations. There I'm adjusting the night so it flashes so you know you hit them.
Yep.
Oh.
I think there were a few times you just let the transition animation going.
Yep, nap time.
I might want to cover that over with like a gray box. I don't want to give anybody a seizure.
Fair.
Let's see, what am I working on over here? Oh, I'm working on the actual hitbox for Sloom for his attack, and then making it basically flicker because I was having an issue where if any enemy just waltzed into Sloom's hitbox, they would just die instantly without even having to hit the attack. So I had to actually basically you start off and the hitbox for the attack is not active, but then when you press the button, it flicks on and then turns off immediately. So you only have that like 1 or 2 frames of you actually attacking. The background.
Yeah, I started playing with backgrounds and then I decided to go back to the tile set and try to finish it, and see I'm doing a lot of vines that I ended up not actually using.
You didn't use those?
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's a shame, because those look great.
I cut out a good portion of those. I used some of them to add some variation, but it was to the point where I felt like I was just going to end up spending all week on this tile set.
But I mean, the end results were great, because the forest is like, for lack of a better term, is the best biome in the game. I've been playing too much Minecraft. Adding the hitbox for the arrow. Yeah, because I wanted it to be able to rotate. Basically, I had it rotate with the gravity, so if you were going up, it would point up, and if it was going down, it would point down. Which actually ended up coming out pretty good the first time, which didn't happen all the time.
Part of the reason I decided not to use the full vines is because it looks very awkward when it's just one black square in the...
That's fair. I mean, I could definitely... But what you ended up doing is you had like a pattern in the background that you darkened over, right? Or did you just not use anything?
I just didn't use them.
Okay.
I cut out most of the vines and I added a bunch of flowers. Well, here we're going with the attack animation.
Yep, the attack gauge. Basically what we did here is we separated the torso from the legs so I could rotate it as you're arcing the shot. And you can see that gauge next to it, which came out so much better than I had originally pictured. We ended up tweaking it a little bit. I think I had you put it back a little bit to make sure it didn't clip with Serafina as she was arcing back.
Yep. Sig was being our DJ here.
Yep. I had Auto DJ with Nightbot, who was very finicky some days. Some days Nightbot just decided not to work, which was kind of depressing because I need music when I'm working on this stuff. Okay, I must be looking up stuff.
Yep. I think you're finagling with the actual arcing animation and whatnot.
Yep. Because what I had to do is basically create a variable of how long you kept the button open and have that change to the actual weight in the linear interpolation, I think is how you say it, for how the arrow actually travels in the air.
And back to work on the tile set.
Back to work on the tile set. Man, you spent a lot of time on that tile set.
I did.
It's alright. It came out beautiful, though, so in the end, I think it was worth it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you wanted the idle animation for the holding the button.
Right, in case you kept holding it past maximum.
Oh, we had that
We
viewer.
had someone in. Oh, yeah. We must have went somewhere, but what you saw there was basically somebody was asking for hints on pixel art and stuff. So we were kind of explaining how motion blur works. But oh, hey, I was just about to say, well, we'll cut back when we come back, but we're already back. So
Yeah.
small break.
I think we stepped away to have lunch.
Yeah, that's probably. I think it was tacos. Tacos. Now I want tacos.
You always want tacos.
Here I'm working on the actual arc.
And this is when you want me to move
Yep.
it back.
Yeah, you can see that I'm like doing it every frame, how it calculates. Then I realized you didn't have to do that. All you have to do is the first and last, and you'll see that there at the bottom. And it came out really good, and I was very happy with it. So I was like, all right, cool. What's good about Godot, though, is if Kai updated one of the sprites, all I had to do was just re-upload it to Godot. Like, as soon as I dropped it in the folder, it would upload automatically, and I wouldn't have to worry about doing all of the animations over again. So that was very much that was very appreciated in terms of quality of life goes. Looks like I'm working on an animation tree. Oh my god. That animation tree is just bad. Please ignore that. Just don't look at it.
Shame!
Don't look at my shame.
I must have wandered off for a nap.
Yup. I was still working on the arcing. But I really liked the contrast between the different characters because you had Oop, who could melee attack, and took more damage. You had...
That was Sloom.
Sorry, Sloom. Sloom could melee attack and took more damage. You had Oop, who could shoot fireballs. We later added on a barrier destruction, and she could also triple jump. And then you had Serafina, who could arc her attack to hit things that are out of place that neither of the other characters could get to. Did I see that we called Evan again? Are we on line with Evan?
Probably.
Is that what's going on? I wonder what we're discussing now. I know we were discussing Procedural Generation. And that was my day for 3 days of the jam. Ugh. Okay.
I spent so much fucking time on that tile set.
Yeah. If you happen to hear a crunching noise in the background, that's our dog chewing on a on a stick toy.
Yep.
So apologies.
He's a little upset that we took his squeaky ball, so.
Yeah, trust me, it's better than hearing a bunch of squeaking over and over again. Oh, yeah, and now we're actually working on making it so if I made a graph that it would appear on the scene instead of putting it manually on the tile set. So we had it create itself.
You can see I've cut down drastically on the number of lines, and I've started to add flowers on the tile set, and I decided that's what I was going to do for it.
Yeah, and I mean, that really made the difference.
I also decided I was going to do 4 variations, because I hate myself.
Did we even use that grass?
Yes.
Yes, we did. Okay.
I ended up using it for the background.
Yeah, we're talking about procedural generation now and making everything summon where it's supposed to.
I was playing with different ideas on how to get the flowers to change hue and whatnot. Because I didn't want to have just blue flowers, because
Right.
I wanted to break it up a little bit.
And that's why you went with the 4, right? The 4 different tile sets?
Yep, I went with 4 different tile sets. I broke apart some of the single bricks, like you can see, those are singles that I cut in half before I put a gash in, and I added some flowers and vines hanging from them. Just to add some variation.
Right, and the way we had it is, what was it? Like, when you started the game, it created a for loop, basically a random loop of how many times it would update the auto tile, so it would be a different look. And so not only was the map itself procedurally generated, but the configuration of the tile set itself was also randomized. So, you can see here I'm actually doing a grid of 0s and 1s, and this was basically to create a scene just using 0s and 1s, and that's how we did all of the rooms. It would pull from an array of different rooms that were already pre-designed. That way, I could just copy and paste the rooms and alter them slightly to be different depending on what it loaded with the procedural generation. And you can see up at the top right when it loads, sometimes it had some weird effects. You can see right there, it was a little bizarre the way it was generating at first, but eventually with the help of Evan we did figure it out. In fact, I think this was Evan's, pretty much completely Evan here. And he told me this is actually how the old school games would do level design, is they would have scenes very similar to this in NES games and stuff like that. Just a bunch of 1s and 0s. And eventually I did that with the spotting of the enemies. On that graph, if there was a K, there would be a knight. If there was an M, there'd be a mage. If there was a C, there'd be a chat. So on and so forth. Oh, what are you working on here?
It was the first iteration of the barrier you said you wanted to smash.
All right.
This must be the next day, though, because I think I went to bed, and now I'm working on the grasslands.
Yep. Which, I mean, after you got done the forest and finally finished that, you busted out the other tile sets like nobody's business.
Well, like I said, the forest was supposed to be nice and bright and welcoming, and then from there it just got more dreary.
Right.
I added some details in the grasslands, like you can see bones or broken weapons in the dirt. but the village after that has nothing but cobblestone on top of it.
Right.
The sewer was bright and interesting, though.
But that goes with the theme more, because, like, the sewer can also be considered sort of a monster area.
Right.
So having that be sort of bright, I mean, it still looked like a sewer, but overall, I think it was really good.
We should have put the rat down there.
We should have, but we ended up putting Old Man Bones, so that wasn't too bad. We also, you worked on some liquid to go in the sewer that we never put in.
Right. Because I wasn't entirely sure how to make it flow.
Yeah. But even if it was stagnant, like, we didn't, like, we would have had to put it at, like, what's it called, a splash animation and stuff like that. So I think there was a lot of variables that we just decided not to go with.
Right. Must be taking another nap.
Yeah, you took a lot of naps.
I was tired.
Yeah. Here I'm working on more rooms. Yeah, you can see me actually making the levels. Every one that you see, we ended up going with 2 for... One was like sky blocks, was invisible barriers. 2 was the actual tile set, and then different letters and such for like NPCs, objects, and things like that. But you can actually see the level. Basically, kind of, it almost looks shaded in. So, like, by the end of it, the 1s and 0s was looking like a level to me, and you can see up in the top right is what it looked like when I actually loaded it. The procedural generation took a while. I don't know how many different rooms I ended up making. Probably close to 100, I would assume, because there were 20 forest straight levels, there were 20 grasslands straight levels, and then there were 5 of every other kind. So, because we had T-paths, we had right-only paths, we had the dead ends from the sewers.
I'm going back and touching up the dungeon and making it match the
Yep.
forest. In terms of the flowers. Make it look like the forest has been seeping in.
Yeah, I think it came out really nice.
So I think the dungeon tile set is the only asset where most of it I didn't do during the jam.
Right, because we did already have that mostly. But you still altered it, so it wasn't the same thing.
Right, I altered it quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I had literally done that 2 days before while I think we were playing Exalted.
That's right, yeah. You did a few assets for Neek while we were playing Exalted. I think your first iteration of Neek was actually done during the Exalted game.
Which is turning into an issue because I can't. I keep wanting to play Neek.
Yeah.
Neek is not a clever character.
And if you do want to, like, what we're talking about right now is we're running a game of Exalted, which is like a D&D sort of epic level game. And you can watch it on Thursdays at 7 p.m. on our Twitch stream. You can see here I'm adding the bit mask and the collisions for the tile map. What are you working on right now? What is that? Oh, is that the sewer?
That's the sewer.
Yep.
I was alternating between sewer and village and figuring out, how the hell are we going to get buildings to generate? Are we going to have buildings to generate?
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, when I got tired of trying to think of the logistics of that, I went back and did the sewer. And originally there were going to be 2 different tile sets, one that had like the weird green slime and the other one that didn't. But when I loaded it up into my version of Godot to test out what it would look like randomly generated, it looked weird. So.
Oh, that was the day that Evan was at work, and he had literally nothing to do because they didn't give him the work. So I don't remember the whole story, but basically he had nothing to do all day, so he just hung out in our stream. So even on his work days, when he wasn't calling us, he was still supporting us. Oh my god.
I was figuring out the patterns.
Oh man, yeah, you can see just making the levels here. It's just cool watching that time lapsed. Tweaking some more animation trees. Oh god. Don't look. Please don't look. Shame.
Zoop was talking about wanting water in the thing. But...
Yeah, we ended up not using it.
Think about working in that thing. Back to the village. Shingles.
Oh, is that what that is? I was like, what
Yep.
is that?
Yep, shingles.
Shingles for the roof. We used that, right? Yeah, we ended up using.
What I ended up doing is I used a bunch of these to make houses for like the background image. So I didn't waste these assets. I just
Right.
when I was doing them, I wasn't sure how we would need to use them.
Because our original idea was that there would be a rooftop level where basically you couldn't get over the castle wall, so you would have to go up and over. You would use the rooftops. But we ended up getting kind of... The procedural generation ended up taking me 3 days. 3 afternoons were dedicated pretty much just to procedural generation. So we ended up having to cut the rooftops pretty much entirely. And we just made it a background to work with.
Yeah. Which, to be honest, I feel like is the better option because I didn't want to have them spend too much time in the town.
Right. Working on collisions.
Yep.
Oh god, that was such a pain in the ass. If anyone knows a better way than doing it tile by tile, please let me know. Because the bit mask is easy. You can just drag over and do the bit mask, no problem. But with the collisions, you have to click a tile, click the collision, and then put it in the tile. And you have to do that for every tile. So it was just... I had like cramping in my wrist by the end of each tile set. It was just annoying. That's why I only did them like one at a time.
I wonder if you could copy the actual asset and rename it.
Yeah, that was something we thought of, but I think I just didn't bother trying it.
Yeah, you see me, I'm using Living Seraphina to kind of size up some of the buildings.
We ended up not using that asset, and I kind of want to put it into the game somewhere.
We'll think of something, especially if we want to expand on this.
Yeah, expand on it. Maybe expand on the actual individual characters, before they all, before the thing showed up. That's something you could explain,
We haven't even started working on the thing yet.
Yeah, okay, we did do that during the stream then.
Yeah.
Okay, so you could explain the thing once we get to it then.
But no, if you play through, particularly, if you play through the peaceful ending, you do get a hint as to what happened to Seraphina. But beyond that, we didn't add too much backstory.
Right.
I am doing UI stuff.
Oh yeah, this is for the UI, yep. And then the orb that we only used once, really.
It's okay.
I was originally going to have it so, it would show the different orb depending on which character you were, but, time constraints.
Yep.
When you have 9 days to bust out a game, you cut corners.
There was originally a shine animation to him, which we ended up not using. Well, I'm working on the thing.
Now you can explain what the thing is.
So in this particular setting, things are chimera that are the embodiment of the chaos of magic. So you can see, it started as like a bunny with a weird tail, and now it has a scorpion tail and a mane and golden horn. Yeah. Things don't make sense. But things are also like an in-universe, what's the word I'm looking for? If something weird or convenient happens, it's probably because there's a thing around.
So it's kind of like the Deus Ex Machina of the setting.
Yes,
you
it's a canonical Deus Ex Machina in the setting, because the setting itself is very fantasy spoofy, where people, they blame everything on magic. It's fine.
Right. If something weird happens, it's probably magic's fault.
Yep.
I'm working on more rooms below. I think I'm working on the static dungeon rooms, the ones that don't change when you're playing through.
Yeah. But I had originally started working on the thing as a way to take a break from doing the village, and then I realized we needed a chest animation.
Yep. Basically what we had is if the chest was struck by one of the player's attacks, it would open up and then a coin would come out of it, is what we ended up using. It's what you're seeing here. Then I had to implement what exactly we were going to use the coins for. Which we did come up with a good idea. You'll see that in a little bit. We'll go over that once it actually happens. Some more collision masking. Oh god.
I think I'm starting to work on some of the backgrounds here, getting ideas for those.
See, the bit mask was easy. I could just copy and paste it. They need to do that for fucking collisions. I'm not mad. So I'm working on the hitboxes for the chest. The animation of it opening. Oh, now you're working. Oh, is that the background you ended up losing?
Yep.
We want to explain what happened there? Heavy sigh.
No, this was the background I ended up losing.
Yeah.
So originally I had some free 64-bit assets that I figured would help make my job easier. So I was working on adjusting them and resizing them and adding color, and then A-Sprite crashed.
A-Sprite crashed and you lost all of it.
Yep.
Which was just... And A-Sprite doesn't have the tendency to crash.
Nope.
That is the first time that happened.
It looks sky.
Yep. Oh, now I'm adding the dictionary. I'm adding the different rooms to the dictionary to actually pull from and create the randomization.
I think I ended up having to redo the sky one too, but it is simple enough that it wasn't
yeah, that
a
wasn't as bad as the freaking forest. That was heartbreaking.
Though I'm happy with what I managed to do with the forest instead.
Right. Oh, I forgot to click out of the download. There you go.
Yep.
That's why it was all gray. Oh god, I'm trying to rework the animation tree and it's just not working. I screwed up there. Don't look, please. Just don't look. I can say with certainty that Neeks looks a lot better for the game that we're developing now, so.
Oh, smash it.
Yes, because the barriers that we have, the only characters that could actually smash down the barrier is Oop. Because we need to give Oop something else than just a triple jump. Because we were afraid that the only reason that people would switch to Oop is just to fly over barriers, fly over, places that are too high for the other characters to jump. So we decided that we would go with a barrier to smash through to give you more of interactivity with Oop.
Oh, you're coding the thing.
Yep, I am coding the thing.
We ended up not using that.
Yeah, I didn't even use an animation tree for it. We did use it.
We used the asset itself, we just didn't use this part of it.
Exactly. We didn't use the actual transition animation. By the time you entered the dungeon, it was already the orb floating there.
Yep.
I forgot to click back into your chat, so.
You butt.
Damn. Now I'm working on dialogue stuff. The dialogue gave me issues too. Whenever I used code that was somebody else's, it was just like, you know what? We're not going to be nice to you. Luckily, I only used it twice. I used the dialogue system from a YouTuber that I saw, and what was the other one? The Grid Snapper. I used the code from a YouTuber on that one as well, which was GD Quest. I don't remember the other guy's name, but we did end up crediting him in the credits of the game. So.
More textures. I think I'm working on the actual village houses now. Because we decided that the town proper and the village houses would have a different style to them.
Yep. Which I'm glad we did because it gives it more variance.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm working on more procedural generation. You can see I imported the barrier smash. I think I'm about to actually put the barriers in the game.
I'm working on the castle walls now.
Yep.
Trying to get the bricks to line up nice and neat for me, which they didn't want to do. So when you see me do something like that, where I have like 4 different areas where there's tiles, I'm importing it into a different program that I bought to help making tile sets easier, because it'll
Tile setter, right?
Yep, tile setter will go through and automatically cut some of the edges down and whatnot and put them together, and then all I have to do is go through and touch them up. Oh, here we have the mage.
Yes, the mage. The mage looked so good.
Beaky mage.
I like it. Yeah, it had a plague doctor sort of look. Now you're working on the lightning bolt. Which, luckily, what was good about the characters too is that we made the 3 protagonists. Sloom. Sloom was melee. We had the archer, who was Seraphina, and then we had Oop, who was the spellcaster that shot straight forward. We did the same thing with the enemies to kind of give it a transition. So the knight was the melee, the mage was the shooting forward, excuse me, and the scout was the, archer, obviously. So I was able to actually kind of cut corners and used a lot of the same scripts, but I had to alter it to make it AI-based rather than input-based, which was a little tricky, but I was able to do that. And it saved a lot of time by cutting that corner as well. I really like the way the mage looks and the scout. They both look really well. I remember the initial AI for the scout was just so bad.
It wouldn't stop shooting at the same spot.
Yeah, it was so bad. So that was when I imported the distance relative of the enemy to how far the scout actually shoots. So basically, the further you were away, from the scout, the more pull that the scout would have. The closer, the less pull. And it actually ended up working really well. So if you like stood still, the arrow would just barely go over you. But if you moved around too much, it would probably shoot you. In the future, I'm probably going to take that script and add some variance. So the pullback is like a range between a certain variable related to your distance, and then have it be a random area that it shoots at. But for the sake of the game jam, it was nice and simple, and it ended up working well, especially for the levels that ended up having 2 scouts. That was kind of terrifying. Now you're working on the hit and death animations.
Yep, I decided to save myself some hassle with the mage, and they were just going to poof.
Yep.
Which turned out to be more of a hassle because I missed a frame somewhere, and it wasn't flowing together, and it was driving me crazy.
And it kind of has that, like, I'm melting sort of effect.
I'm melting.
Melting, oh, what a world.
Back to trying to figure out what I'm doing with the freaking village. I think out of all the backgrounds and all the tile sets, the village and the town were the ones that gave me the biggest trouble, because mechanically I wasn't sure how we could implement them.
And I'm just working on the levels, and oh yeah, that's right, the tile set, like, we got to the new tile set, and they were all just like little tiny squares, because I had forgotten to scale it, and I was like wondering what the hell was going on.
Yeah, it wasn't scaled properly, and it was set to the default of like 64 instead of 24.
Instead of 24, so it was like clipping to the corners.
Yeah.
Yeah, snapping to the corners, I should say. But that was an easy fix. I realized what it did, like, right off the bat. Excuse me. Now I'm working on more rooms.
Hey, look, actual background. Oh, this is when I did the ranch.
And this is where I'm trying to figure out how to place the... Yeah, there we go. How to place it using the map and procedurally generating where the NPCs spawn. Eventually we got it. Oh yeah, the... Would those be considered things too, because they're kind of an amalgamation, or?
Not really. They're not magical creatures.
What did you say they were again? Like
horse cows.
Horse cows, yeah. Which I thought they were just donkeys at first, but then I saw the snout and I was like, oh.
They're cute. I love them.
Some more dialogue stuff.
Clowns.
Now I'm working on the actual attack range for the mage.
I have completed the background. Yay!
That's actually where you end up meeting Veska in the game, which is basically a thank you character that we did for SIG, because throughout the entire stream, they were there pretty much every day supporting us. So we're like, you know what, we're putting you in the game.
What do you want in the game? I was expecting them to put like Keelan or Sif.
Yeah, right. But
Veska.
they went with Veska, which I love the design. The picture that they sent us was just really nice. We also did a thank you to Evan because Evan just helped us every step of the way. So we actually put him as the king of the game, and we made Token, their significant other, basically the last boss. Yeah, the king consort. So that was interesting.
Oh, I must be taking a nap.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put a box over that as well because that's very flashy light.
Sorry.
Oh no, I didn't think about the time lapse when we were doing that, so it was really good for the stream watching it live.
Right.
But watching it at 75 times speed, I don't want to give any of my viewers seizures, so...
Yeah, no, that's bad.
Yeah, that's bad. I'm working on the hit range for the archers. Oh yeah, you ended up reworking the arrow
Because it looked wonky.
Yeah, when you first fired it, the wind being behind it didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right, just where it spawned in, it looked weird, and it was bothering me, so it's like, you know what? Don't need that.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Fighting with the Scouts animation now, I think. Yeah. Because you can see it there. When the character gets close, it wouldn't stop firing, but it was going to, like, the max value. I don't know what I'm doing. I think I must be taking a nap. But no, you can see him importing. He asked me to split the Scout up like I had done Seraphina, where the torso and the legs were separate, which now that I knew what I was doing was a lot easier, and I could reuse Seraphina's drawback animation to cut some work off for myself. Let's see. I think we were also having an issue with the Scout just not attacking at all. Oh, I had to call Evan again.
Yeah. Phone a friend. Yeah, Regis, I would like to use a lifeline. Phone a friend. This is where they're just shooting in one direction.
Yep.
Slim's just like, huh. This is where I'm working on the draw. The draw strength, like I was saying. Looks like I'm finally downloading. Yeah, I'm downloading the tile set.
Yeah, you only needed to do that one, which, you know,
Yep.
was a mercy.
Right.
Oh, I just had to go back and redo the castle one. Because along the same lines of wanting the importing the background didn't work at first.
Yeah, that's right. It was not behaving.
Yep. But oh, I'm working on the other background. But no, with the castle background, I decided that, like, the further they went into human territory, the more dull everything got, but also the more uniform. Like, the more predictable the pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted the castle tile set to be very clean and precise in a way.
And you can actually see that with the level design too. Like the sewer, it's very straight, it's very angular. Same thing with the castle. The platforms are very straight. There aren't a whole lot of natural curves. Whereas in the grasslands and the forest, I had to basically make a more natural feel to it, which was weird when you're working with squares, especially on like that numbered grid that you were seeing at the bottom there. But overall, I think it came out pretty nice. And now you're working on the actual dungeon background.
Yeah.
I think I'm working on more dialogue stuff.
No, I think you were working on implementing backgrounds.
Yeah, background still. Yep, you're right.
Because there's a forced background dungeon.
Yeah. Yeah. That happened.
And that was off-centered.
And it was off-centered. It was half for some reason. But then I just, like, offset it. So, yeah, now it's working.
You can see me adjusting the sky.
Was that the background we ended up going with?
For what?
The forest.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Now you're working on the,
Grasslands.
the rock. Yeah, you had the second rock because I mentioned, like, having to break it up a little bit so it wasn't the same rock over and over again.
Yep. I think at this point I'm sitting there going, okay, what do I need to do now?
Oh yeah, you decided to brighten the tile set for the forest because it was blending in too much with the background.
I made it match too well.
Yeah.
Oh. Hello, Final Fantasy.
Whoops. I think you might have gone to bed. No, never mind. I just must have had it minimized for some reason.
You butt. This was when we were still talking about doing the rooftop, and it's like, okay, how are they going to get on the roof? So let's make some crates.
Yeah, my original idea was going to be smaller buildings. You jump to them with oop, and then you get to the top. But we ended up not going that route, which in the end saved us a lot of times. Oh, you see me messing around with the folders, getting everything organized in the top right. Some more tweaking. Oh, is this where I'm adding the audio? No, I don't think so. Because it wasn't until later that I added the audio. Oh, no, I am. Yeah, I'm adding audio. Oh, please stand by. We'll be right back when we're back. Tacos. Okay, we're back. Let's see. Working on more village stuff. We ended up not using a whole lot of the village stuff. It's a little disappointing because we had a lot of stuff there. Now you're tweaking the portraits.
Yep.
I'm importing a lot of sound bites. A lot of that stream was me just messing around with sound.
I'm doing the castle background now.
Oh, that came out so good.
Now, see, the castle background is one where I actually did want to include a lot of color because it's more of a hopeful thing for the monsters, because this could either be a good thing or a bad thing for them.
Right.
See me, I made like a double-headed phoenix peacock thing.
Do you want to explain the color choices?
Okay, so I'm doing a very basic... I started out with a very basic, like, bird at sunrise or sunset. But then it's like, you know what? The kings are two of our best friends. One of them is trans and the other one's bisexual. So the background are the colors of the bisexual flag done in a gradient, and the bird is a trans flag colors.
So yeah, we decided. Was it the middle of Pride Month as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Because we're still in Pride Month, right?
Yep.
So it was nice to add that little, just the hints of colors, you know, just as a little homage. You know, it's like it's nice to have that reflect in the game as well, and it's just a subtle little thing in the background that, like, people may or may not even pick up on.
I don't think anyone would really pick up on it unless I brought it. Oh, the bee thing! Bee thing!
I don't know why you did. I think you just needed a break.
I needed a break, and
then
Evan's...
Chat was coming up with the ideas of, like, what exactly we should amalgam together.
Yeah.
So it was what, a leech, a hornet, and
It was a bee, a leech, and a
spider. Yeah,
it was a flying note.
that has to be an enemy in Neek. It has to be. And now you're working on
King Ivan.
yes, King Ivan Talela Elepi.
Yep. I made his scepter and crown purple to contrast with the orange coat because orange is his favorite color.
Yes.
Well, working on him. So tiny.
I just love, like, if you knew them in real life, this, it looks like them. It really does. Like, now you're working on Veska, who's
Yep.
Sig's character.
Yep.
The little blip of a beak, but then that was me going, hey, well, shouldn't they have a beak? And then he showed me the artwork and they didn't. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, I forgot to click out again. Whoops.
Yep. Yes, you did.
And now working on the bit mask for the tile set.
And I had to come over and help you with that one.
Why? Oh, right, because of how... Oh, yeah, that was just hard for me to see.
Right. But because I had done the actual tile set,
Right.
I knew which ones were which.
Yeah, and for a lot of the other tile sets, I was able to just copy and paste it over, but because it was just the one, I wasn't able to do that.
Right. Everything's starting to flow together.
Yeah, now we're actually getting the game together. I think I ran into a few roadblocks with the procedural generation.
Like the end caps of the sewers.
Yeah, the end cap of the sewer is not generating. So what I ended up doing with that is I put Old Man Bones there, and he ended up having, at minimum, 5 treasure chests that spawned there. So if you went out of your way to go see Old Man Bones, you got his treasure. And a lecture.
Well,
Back in my day.
200 years ago? Yeah. I didn't have a lot of time to write a lot of dialogue, so...
Yeah, now I'm tweaking where the platforms spawn in relation to the windows. I did not want to block the windows, so I made sure that they were, the platforms were either underneath or in between.
Oh, Sig's talking with us.
Yep.
You're doing more sound bites.
Yeah, more sound stuff. I was also running into an issue where it was whenever I used an OGG for the sound, it was looping for no reason at all. So I had to convert them all in Audacity to WAV files, because I guess the way Godot is kind of set up is, and this might be a file thing, this might not be Godot, but basically the music should be OGG because it flows very well when you repeat it. So we could have that looping soundtrack, and it sounded really good. And for the sound bites themselves, for like jumping, attacking, the hit animation, hit sounds and stuff like that, we would need to convert them to WAV files. But once I got it all in, oh my god, that animation tree. Oh, it gives me anxiety looking at it. Oh god, don't look, don't look. Oh my god.
Oh.
That's right.
And then I realized, I still have to do the werewolf.
Yep. So this is the final boss. Is the actual werewolf. When M actually turns into a werewolf, and so you could actually bypass it and just not fight the boss, depending on what ending you get. Because we decided from the beginning we wanted at least 3 endings. We ended up actually putting 4 in.
Yep.
So we were pretty happy about that. We have a pacifist ending where you don't kill anyone, a truce ending, where you basically kill some of them, but not everyone you see. We have a hostile takeover ending, where you kill at least 18 people. And then we have a bribery ending, where if you have 5 times the amount of gold as you do to kills, you actually bribe the king into working with you.
Yeah.
Working on the the idle animations right now.
Transition animation between M and Wolf.
Wolf. I remember because you asked them how, what they would want to be represented as, and their first instinct was doggo. Then we decided, that didn't make sense because the whole purpose of the game is that the monsters. Are you working on the break animation for the barriers? But the monsters were the quote unquote good guys that were being oppressed. Oh, that's when you were working on Sloom's
Sloom was originally going to have an animation to go through the grates.
Yeah.
But, Zook.
It would have been a hassle to program, so I just made it on a different layer so you just go through it.
Right.
But yeah, no, basically we were like, okay, well, Doggo's not going to work, so he actually ended up going with an elf.
Elf wizard.
Elf wizard instead. But then we were like the idea of what if he was secretly a werewolf? So we ended up going with that idea. And now he's like, when you show up with, the 3 of you being monsters, he sees you right away and he transforms into the werewolf. And it's like, what? Monsters here? And depending on how you have progressed through the game, depends on if it's the boss fight or not. Now you're working on the attack animations.
Yeah, this one gave me a hassle.
Yeah, I really like the way the boss fight came out. It was nice. Just having a wizard, a fucking werewolf with a wizard hat too.
It's a wizard wolf.
A wizard wolf. A were-wizard. It was cool because we decided to go with a teleport thing. So he would just teleport to different locations or behind you. He would basically teleport to different locations and shoot that magic orb of flowers that you see Crystal working on right now.
I asked M what element he would want. He said wood.
Yep. Which in I think it's Chinese folklore, the 5 elements are your basic earth, fire, wind, water. But there's the 5th element is wood, so I think it's either Chinese or Japanese culture. I don't remember which, but
no, it's fire, air, water, wood, metal.
Really? Wow, that's interesting.
Oh, I did disappear a flyaway animation for Vesca, but I ended up saving over it, and I was so upset.
Oh yeah, because that totally would have got into the game after you spoke with her. Oh well, it happens. It was so good too. I loved the way that looked. Okay, working on the dialogue system again. Oof.
Yeah, I must have been writing. I think this is when I went and started writing the actual script on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to go lay down, and also I didn't want to give our stream watchers seizures by tabbing out of a sprite.
Right. That's right. Yeah, you were working on the actual script for the dialogue. That's right.
Yep.
So you want to go lay down and do that. And I was having difficulties with my headset at this point, so I couldn't actually talk to the stream. I had to type everything.
I had to adjust the animation positioning.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because for some reason they were all off. Here I am messing with the different hitboxes. implementing the wood blast, the flurs.
Flurs. Yeah, the reason why I didn't tab over and stream my actual writing is because I get very self-conscious when I know people are watching me write.
That's fair.
So that's why there's just a lot of nothing from me. You were having an issue getting the transformation to trigger.
Yeah, I don't know why that was happening, but I ended up getting it. I also saw myself working on the teleportation positions too, which I also had trouble with spotting the right location.
Oh, I see. I actually did the throne room background.
Yep.
Must have skipped that.
Yep. You may have done that off stream.
Oh, I think I did. I think I did that in the morning before you got up. Because again.
6 o'clock every day.
Why?
I don't know why.
I don't know!
That was one thing in hindsight is we had to go through the entire game in order to get to the end because I didn't make another character that could pass through walls and just go. That's something I'm probably going to do in the future because that was real annoying having if I wanted to test out the last part of the game because everything was the same level, quote unquote. And it was procedurally generated. I couldn't anticipate where it was going to be. So I literally had to travel all the way through every one of the levels to get to the end and test to make sure it's working. So
Thankfully, it's not a terribly long game.
no, it's a very short game. So luckily it wasn't as bad as it could have been. And you know, the purpose of this jam was to learn things, and that's definitely one thing I learned. See, Neek's gonna have levels though, like straight up levels that will transition to completely different scenes, whereas this is all done on one scene. So it'll be a lot easier to test out Neek because I can just like, hey, if I'm on level 6, for instance, I can just play level 6.
Right.
Now, positioning where the actual
Teleportation
positions are. Now I'm coding the actual teleportations. And it was weird because the node was not working. It was basically the hitboxes were in the right location, but the parent of the node where it wasn't. So it wasn't teleport. And so he was actually teleporting back to the beginning.
Yep.
So that was a challenge, but eventually I figured that out and we got it. You could actually see, yeah, he was teleporting in the beginning room. And there, I actually got it there. And it was the boss fight, so I wanted to do something special for the boss fight other than just here I am standing and I'm gonna shoot, you know. So we have him teleporting to 3 different locations, well 4 technically, 3 set positions, and then the position of right behind you. And basically, if it was one of the set positions, it would fire off a wood bolt, and if he teleported behind you, he would swipe at you with his claws. And you actually had to hit him with a different attack from each one of them, which we hint at in the dialogue. So basically, like, you know, it was in this setting, just for the sake of the boss, we have an NPC that's saying, like, what was it? werewolves can't be attacked by the same attack twice. So you have to be Oop, hit into melee, then switch to Seraphina, hit him with an arrow, and then switch to Oop and hit him with a fireball.
Yep.
Of course, then came in the problem of them dying too quickly, because Oop was the only character that had 2 hits. Everybody else died in 1 hit.
Right. So I think you actually tweaked how likely it was to teleport behind the player.
Yeah, I did. I ended up doing that, and then I accidentally realized that he wasn't doing it at all, because I had forgotten to put the variable in. It was in the script, but I forgot to make the range of the percentage go to that, that far.
Right.
Which actually you can see right there at the bottom of my screen. That's all the different variables. Now I'm tweaking some of the level designs. Oh, I think I'm putting the chests in different locations.
Yep.
Because this is where I came up with the idea that basically you could use the coins to resurrect yourself. So if you had 30 coins, you essentially could resurrect yourself 30 times.
And then we had to get that to work.
Yeah. That wasn't too difficult. I was having some issues with the sound, because I just wanted a point of the sound to play, so I had it backed up before the actual animation caused, but that basically made it so the audio never played. So I actually had to go into Audacity, cut that beginning part out, and re-import it in. Now you're working on the coin itself to go on the user interface. Ah, the auras, yep.
Yep, I wasn't sure exactly what you wanted to do with those, but I came up with something that I...
You nailed it. You did, better than I pictured. Because originally I was just going to have, an aura, and then you just made, these animations that went around him, and I was like, oh, that's perfect. Looks so good. Now I'm actually implementing it. And basically what I do here is they're always playing, but they're invisible until you actually, trigger them.
Oh, I think you crashed the game.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, NPCs!
Yeah, working on the goobies.
You always have to have goblins.
Absolutely. I remember you saying, you know what? I'm going to give him a pink shirt because I can.
Minotaur.
The Minotaur, yep. So buff.
So buff.
It's like, why wasn't he out adventuring?
Because he's part of OO.
That's right, he's the overlings. What did OO stand for?
So, OO is the Underling Workers Union. The OO is the Overling Wrangler Organization.
Right, right.
They're the ones that deal with the adventurers that come in to try to wreck shit.
Right. Which makes sense for a Minotaur that he's protecting his home base.
Yep.
This is where I came up with the idea of the resurrection, basically the same time what I did for the resurrection animation is I just played the death animation in reverse, and then I took the soundbite of the death, I put it into Audacity, and just flipped the audio. And it worked so well. It was so good. I love the way that it came out. Looks like I'm looking up another tutorial of something.
How to make sure it counted the coins right, I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was looking to update the coins on the UI, which was a little tricky for me.
Well, that, and I think it was still letting you resurrect even though you had no coins. I think
Yes.
that's what we
Yeah.
were working on.
Yeah, you're right.
Because you just had, like, Serafina stand there and get hit by the knight over and over.
God,
and over, and
the animation trees are getting worse. I don't want to look at them anymore. So bad. I love the animation tree system, and now that I know how to do it, it's so much better. But man, I did not.
Learning experience.
Yeah, it works. That's all that mattered. We got it done. Oh, now you're working on the game over.
Yep.
Yep, now I'm working on the UI here, actually putting it in. And basically, every time you kill an opponent, it would fill up that blood gauge just a little bit more. So if it was empty by the end of the game, you knew that you were on a pacifist run. And if it was like halfway full, you could get the truce ending. But if it was black, which progressively filled up and then turned black, then you knew you were going to get the hostile takeover ending. And the bribery ending was kind of a secret ending that you could get just kind of by chance.
We kind of hinted at it though with Vasco.
We did. And it's funny because Sig ended up getting the bribery ending first when they played it.
Yep.
So the easiest way to get that ending is by like one kill and at least 5 coins.
Yep.
Because for every kill, it brings up the amount of coins you need by 5. Game statistics. Yep. I wanted to keep track of how many times you died, or you swapped, or how many coins you got, how many kills you got. Because I've always loved that about video games, being able to look it up. Oh, this is where I'm putting, I believe that's the sound bites. Yep. So basically, I wanted it so every time you killed an NPC, you didn't hear the same death animation over and over again, since all we had was 3 enemies. So I actually found in the pack that we had, there were, I think, 12 or so death sounds, and I made it so it would play a random one of those. And I did the same thing with the coins as well, so it would be a different coin sound every time you got one. There were a couple rooms where if you got like 3 in a row, it'd be like, it was just very satisfying to hear. Now you're working on the ending screens.
Yeah, because we didn't really have time for me to do cutscenes, quote unquote cutscenes, and also I wasn't sure how we would implement them. So,
right.
It just saved us more time in the end.
Right.
I think that's something I'd like to change eventually if we do go back to it, but not right away.
Yeah, I'd like to add cutscenes as well. Like the beginning cutscene, it works with the still images, but definitely in the future I would like to make them actual like motion cutscenes and things like that. It worked for what we were going for.
Right.
But it definitely can get fleshed out.
So we need to do buttons.
Buttons. We gotta have buttons.
Yep.
Then we took the GA symbol and pixelized it.
Yep. And then you wanted a sprite sheet of that.
Yeah, of the actual screen, which was too big to be imported.
So it's like, you know what, let's make it 2 separate images.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it was just that, yeah. So, it didn't look so bad. Now putting the buttons actually in, aligning it with the center. And then I had to actually program the buttons to actually do stuff.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we got rid of the resume button and just made it plain quit.
Considering we have no save function in the game,
Yeah, it's a 10-minute game, so...
Right.
What am I looking at? Oh, I think it was loading your screen. That's right. Originally, we were going to have a screen that was just paused, but then we decided we're just going to have it flash the word paused if you pause the game. So.
Did that actually get implemented?
The pause? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. The pause was really easy. I had already known how to do that from the Neek project when I was working on that, so it was just a matter of putting in a few lines of code and then just having it flash in. Oh, Evan again, helping me with Proc Gen.
No, I think it's
Oh,
the
that's
UI
right.
wasn't lining up.
Yeah, the UI wasn't updating, so because I was using some weird formula that I got off GD Quest that I didn't really understand. And you see that modulo C, which is the %C that you're seeing on screen, was supposed to update, and it does if you follow it the way that GD Quest was using it, but it wasn't working for what I needed it to do. So he taught me a much simpler method to basically just replace the value with a string value based on the kills that I was already counting. So I just replaced it with 0 there and had it update every time there was a kill or a coin.
Game over screen.
Yep. That's right, we had a point where, like, the werewolf would show up on the game over screen, and it would show over the game over screen, just teleporting from different locations, and we decided to keep it because we just thought it was cool. It's like, guess what? This killed you.
You are implementing dialogue.
Yep, putting the dialogue that you wrote into the game.
I did my best to format it, but, you know.
No, you did a pretty good job overall. I just had to put a couple of slashes where the, like...
This is when we still had the dialogue choices, and we couldn't figure out how to get them to fucking work the way we
yeah,
wanted.
that was so annoying. Which I have a new dialogue system that I'm going to be using for Neek that does allow branching, so...
Right.
We had to scrap the branching dialogue and just go with a static script.
So what I ended up doing is I went back and I rewrote some sections of the dialogue, and I split the files up so Zook could tell where they were.
Right. Hey, it worked! Okay. See, I forgot to click into your screen again.
Mm-hmm.
I told Sick to yell at me if I did it. But I don't think they're in the stream right now, so they weren't able to.
I think I'm working on, like, the actual cutscene sort of dealio. Because we still weren't sure what we were going to do from the beginning. And also I had nothing else to do. I had done all my animations, I've done most of the screens.
That was, it just showed the flashing of the, of M being, like, teleporting on the game over screen like that, but...
Yep.
Yeah, no, by this point you were pretty much caught up, so you were just helping me with, like, research and such.
Yeah.
But, looks like, oh yeah, you work on the cutscene.
Yep.
So that was pretty much all you were doing at this point. Like, I didn't even know you were working on that.
Yeah, he turned around at one point, it's like, oh, by the way, I have all these images for you. Didn't we forget to actually implement Evan in the game until, like, last minute?
Yeah, it was one of the last things I added, because it was just him standing there. That's literally all I had to put. And I wasn't too worried about that.
Right.
Because that was just a matter of putting the variable of the king in and then putting a capital K in the throne room, and then he'd be there.
Yep.
Now I'm putting in all the different options depending on what ending you're actually getting.
Yeah. I think we ran into an issue where you would accidentally get the bribery ending instead of the truce ending. More often than not.
Yeah, we did.
Which is why we increased it to 5 times the number of kills instead of just more coins and
Yes,
kills.
exactly. And then we were running into a problem where if you got exactly 18 kills, it would do nothing. It would basically freeze the game. Because I did the variables for the truce ending was between 1 and 18 kills. But if you got exactly 18 kills, then it would do nothing. So I made it less than 19 instead of less than 18. That did the trick. I had to tweak it a couple times for that.
Making sure the NPCs are in and their dialogue goes off.
Yeah, I think we're on one of the last days here.
Yep.
This might be the last day, which we ended up staying up 24 hours for. Oh my god.
We submitted the game 10 hours and 1 minute before the deadline.
Yeah. Yep. And I still had to patch it a couple times because of issues people were running into. But now it's pretty much functioning the way we wanted it to. But yeah, no, I ended up staying up like 24, 25 hours that night, and I ended up missing Father's Day because of it. And Dad, if you are watching this, I am sorry. I love you. Please don't be mad at me. Okay, and I think I'm just going through dialogue changes. Oh, that's right, because the script itself is we had separate like room triggers. Basically, like you went to different parts of different rooms, and there were supposed to be area triggers to trigger the dialogue, but then I was like, I don't want to have to go through and make a different node for every single one of those, so I combined it in with the NPC dialogue itself to make it just easier on me.
Yep. Saved yourself some time.
I mean, we're in the final stretches here now.
Yep. I think this is when we were we were adjusting where the text box was, trying to implement the initial cutscene, but it just wasn't going.
Right.
Like, the dialogue was triggering, but it wasn't actually transitioning to the scene we wanted.
And the grid snap was causing me issues, because if you look, when you're looking at the top right, you can see the blue hitbox of where the dialogue script would initiate. But then I was having issues of it going in a different location because the grid, it was snapping to the virtual grid, so it was I was having real issues with the virtual grid conflicting with where the camera actually was. We ended up figuring it out though, so luckily it's not too big deal.
It was like 5 o'clock in the morning when I looked over at you. It's like, so couldn't we technically make it a different scene?
Yep. The beginnings. Yes. Yep. Yeah, and then you just teleport into the dungeon, and I was like, I kiss you. I kiss you now. You are beautiful wife. And that's what I did with the end screen as well. I made it a separate scene entirely. So there are technically 4 different scenes. There's the title screen, there's the beginning movie, there's the actual game, and then there's the end screen.
Right. But the actual game takes place in one screen.
Right. Going through and fleshing out the rooms, making sure all the enemies are populated.
I think at this point I was like laying on the ground.
Yep.
I was only awake for emotional support.
Yep. Where you see my Final Fantasy character now in the background. But yeah, no, I was at first when I'm not sure if it's going to show it on screen very well, but I was having some serious lag issues because of all the monsters that I had spawned in, and I was having problems with the physics process. Basically, and I think it has to do with the virtual grid as well, and they were all, essentially all the rooms start on the beginning screen and then relocate to where the rooms are supposed to be, because that's the way the generation process goes. And I think that was triggering their physics process to play right off the bat, so all of their physics processes were going at the same time, which was lagging the game. So I had to basically cut the mob count in half in order to actually get it to play, responsively.
Uploading.
Yep, I'm actually uploading it now. Yep. Yeah, so that's pretty much the game jam. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all for your support. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and actually play an example of the game. So you can look forward to that now. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again in the future for another game jam. Until then, toodaloo.
Bye!